Specific matchup I would like to see a Gommel. For melee, I do hope to see leffen get a chance at Hbox, preferably in losers. I think that would be good for leffen to like finally clutch a set against Hbox. Like, people always mention that he had a bad record against Hbox last year, but I think like a lot of these people fail to realize that most of these losses were game 5. It was like very close sets overall. In Ultimate, I don't feel like I know enough of what players are going in the first place. DVEC, I think some people are just tired of the voting stuff for Summit. And some people might feel bad about, you know, asking their fan bases to like put in a lot of money, and then all that money, actually not even any longer. In the past, all the money could go to quote-unquote waste, but now I think you can even if you make it to the final 2 but don't get voted in, then I think you could like go to Summit as like an invite, pretty much. Or not an invite in terms of entering the tournament, but how do I cancel the Shadow Ball off stage? If I don't have a jump, I tend to air dodge, and if I do have a jump, I just jump out of it. Leffen was overseeded in melee. Wait, didn't he get like 5th seed or something? The thing is, yes, leffen have not entered melee for quite some time, but I think it's also important to like recognize that he still lives in Europe. Overall, when it comes to like a lot of things with like rankings, seedings, like I think people often forget about the fact that if you do not live in the US, you run into like such crazy disadvantages. Sometimes if I didn't enter a tournament in the US for like 5-6 weeks, people are like, oh, dodging the competition, picking his tournament so carefully. It's like, what the hell? What do you expect? Like, can't go to everything. Now I know it's much longer for leffen here, but he still is like, he did get dropped from like, I think he was like seeded like, or I think his rank for last year was like 3rd, second best of like the active players, and he went down to 5th. Oh, his seed was 4th. Well, 4th and 5th don't really matter, to be fair, because 4th and 5th play in quarters anyway. It's like, yeah, I guess you get to like 1 seed higher, tougher opponents in the rounds prior. Yeah, no, Calvin, people often said that if I didn't enter tournaments in the US like every like 5 weeks-ish, then it was me being afraid of competition and dodging it. And that's why I shouldn't be able to like get ranked as high, because unlike some other people, I was like, you know, I didn't enter as much. It was like, it was crazy, it was crazy. And the thing is, since you as a European can't farm tournaments as much, getting ranked first as a European is actually significantly harder than as an American, I would say. Yeah, I think Europeans that like, oh, I want to quit the game because some countries in Europe is trying to switch to NTSC, I think that's, yeah, quite silly. Leffen traditionally have been pretty good at like, even though he hasn't played melee for like, you know, a crazy much, he's normally pretty good at like picking it back up again like quickly. It seems like he does it better than most people. So I'm not sure. I think leffen might beat Sane still. I also think people buy in too much to the, oh, Fox gets like demolished by Marv. Like, I don't know. Often like Fox players talking about the Marv matchup, if I didn't know better, I would sincerely believe that the matchup was at least 75-25. Based on like all the complaining. Crazy, I would say it depends on, because everyone's definition of what viable means is different, right? For some people, viable means being able to solo main and be the best in the world. For some people, viable means being able to like be #1 on like most PGR or PR rankings. So it depends, but it obviously would help him a lot. Reverse hits adds so many layers. of complexity. Both as the person comboing, because like you can pick in many scenarios like what side they're gonna go on, and also requires more precise execution / spacing, and the opponent that gets hit by it needs to be ready for both. I think always letting people go in front kind of like it removes many layers. Nah, I don't have any regrets of my melee career. Well, a lot of characters have gone through that phase, Godpoon, of being very unpopular compared to the very early start, because people bandwagon so easily. Like people were also convinced that Chrom was like by far the best character in the game, so a lot of people picked him up because of that. And then when people changed their mind about the character, then a lot of people dropped the character. But I think the fact that some characters can edgeguard Chrom really well is kind of like turning people away from the character. I don't know. I think what he referred to was like, since I've been gone from melee singles for so long, that it's like, oh, he actually quit. Because you know like how many people they quit and then they're back within like a month or two. But I actually don't know. Dude, psychic Pokemons in the Pokemon anime was so fucking broken. You literally couldn't do shit against that. I know that was before like some types were like introduced and stuff, but like the way like Kadabra worked in the anime, for example, was just broken. Control someone's body. You could like if you somehow land a hit, recover. You can control the opponent's moves so that it flies back at them. Kevin, maybe. To me, it always felt the best when I played a mix of offense and defense versus HBox. Sadly, most viewers could never like see that. Like some sets, I went in with the mentality of only camp HBox, and then some sets, I went in with the mentality of trying to mix up offense and defense. But the average viewer could not see any difference whatsoever. But I think I did better once I started to mix it up more. I think that's the way to beat Puff. Like, because if you only camp, you tend to give up too much stage, and Puff doesn't have to be like afraid as much. But if you play aggressive too much, it's like too risky, because the risk reward is like, you know, not too good. It's actually really bad. But I think if you mix it up, then Puff always need to be on her toes, you know, because you might attack at any given time. Well, up pro, down B. I assume that you are kind of a troll, but in case you are not, if HBox haven't had a chance to figure out the Marth matchup, despite Marth being one of the most common characters in the game and one of the most common characters at top level, then that's really saying how Puff is by far the best character in, like, you know, in the meta. Because if having that much Marth practice is not enough to figure out the matchup, then how would you ever be even close to be able to figure out the Puff matchup? Like, we could go on playing melee for another like 400 years and people still would not have had as much chance of fighting Puff as you know, people have had a chance to fight Marth. Well, I'm happy that Mango finally seems to have, you know, been putting the ego to the side a little bit about warming up with Puff players. It was about time. It was about time. Like, don't get me wrong, I really like Mango, but he is always like, his pride in the past, there was always like too much. It's like, oh, I will never warm up with Prince Abu. Even though he warmed up with Mewtwo at EVO 2014, like Mewtwo Puff, to play before he played HBox, but he always had too much pride playing against Prince Abu, and too many of like his fans was buying into that bullshit as well. So I'm happy he has like finally done that. It was about time. It was about time. Like, don't get me wrong, I want him to beat HBox, but Puff is the type of character that you especially need to warm up against, I think. Yeah, I remember when he said he would never learn shield drop. That partly I thought was like just more of like, you know, just to his brand. But I don't think that his like fans encourages stuff that actively would make him a worse tournament player. I don't think that's a good thing, but you also can't expect much more from people on the internet, to be honest. Yeah, shield dropping was like considered super lame back then by many people. Yeah, I still think the top players should make sure that a Puff player goes to Summit through one of these like passes, but I don't think it's gonna happen. For me, like, if you're like a top competitor, it doesn't make sense though. Like, spending $100, having a, you know, a much bigger chance, winning way more. Not only money, but also like, you know, winning tournaments, beating H-Box. I don't know.